morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, with a tiny pinpoint of Justin and occasionally John. A micron, perhaps. Hello, everybody. Hey, yeah. You know, I always think, Quindy, that going into this, I'm like, yeah, I'll come up with some clever intros. I'm like, no, it just it never happens. I just wing it. Oh, hey guys. Hey, I have a picture. So our puppy mommy is 5.5 weeks preggers right now, and Bridget took a very nice picture of her. So I'm going to share with you my puppy mommy. Just as a prelude, this is Zam. Zammy is actually Zamboni, named after a hockey term because Bridget and her guy are Bridget and Ben are both into hockey big time. So there's our puppy mommy. She's a color called Golden Sable. And there will probably be some puppies with this color and more of a reddish brown because her dad was more of a reddish brown sable. And then there will be some solid black puppies probably because the daddy is solid black and it's dominant in that breed. So, yeah. Oh, no, sick kitty. No. Yeah, that is the problem with animals, is they do get their things going on every once in a while, right, Kerniko? But yeah, so that was the puppy mommy. That's Zamboni. She's our puppy mommy. I have a picture of Floyd in here somewhere, too, but actually, I think there are pictures of Floyd as a baby. Do you guys want a puppy segue for a moment? Do you want a puppy segue? Say you want a puppy segue. Like, say we want puppy pictures this morning. Hold on. Let me find Zammy's. Oh, Floyd puppy pictures. Let's see here. I know that there's a picture of this entire outcross litter. Up here somewhere. I think I might have showed you guys. Did I show you guys the little Floyd puppy picture? So this is our outcross, and he's the daddy of our litter, and he is 1/2 Shiloh, 1/4 Standard Poodle, and 1/4 Dutch Wetterhound, which is a Dutch water breed that was doing this outcross originally. And then Zamboni, that's really her personality. So that's Sammy as a puppy. Anybody who says no to puppy pics gets banned. So that, and these are the personality too. These are absolutely the personality where Floyd is like, okay, you know, I'll take a treat. Sure, I'll stand here. I guess it's all right. And Zammy's like, hi. Yeah, that's pretty much the puppy mommy's personality right there. So yeah, cute pictures, cute. I have, somewhere in my phone, I have a picture of Floyd and all his littermates, and all of his littermates actually look a lot more like poodles. Floyd was the only puppy without the bearded gene. So that got him a little bit closer to like getting back to Shiloh breed type. So yeah. It's a fascinating thing. It's an interesting journey. And I already know 2 of the people getting puppies from this litter, so I will have littermate buddies. That's what we call it in our breed when you make new friends, because they own puppies from your same litter. So yeah, so there we go. So that was a puppy intro. A human couple with those personalities. Yeah, Kerniko. 90 degrees headed to 103, huh? Oh, I was just going to check because it feels like it might be kind of a bit warm here today too, but I like warm, so. Let's see here. 80? Now 79, yeah, feels like that. Ooh, it's supposed to get up to 90 on Friday though, 91. Woohoo, Texas weather. Of course, not Texas in the summer when it would be 105. Alrighty, so let us do... I really want to get that hat band taken care of. I'm going to do it real quick. I think I'm going to do it, let's actually do it red with a gold band instead of the other way around. So I think I was using heraldic for this one. Heraldic's usually my go-to kind of like standard red. It's a good medium red. It has great coverage. It's for a red. Summer came to Texas early, yeah. It does that. Oh yeah, the humidity sucks. Humidity here is really, really low, Twisted Doma, so I think we're solid blue sky. We had a bit of humidity and clouds over the last few days. We even had a tiny sprinkle of rain on Sunday, which is crazy. Never happens in the summer here. But and it was a tiny sprinkle. It was not real rain. But yeah, it's a very cloudless blue sky here today. Alrighty, so let's do that. And of course, we're putting this over zenith. So even though we've only base coated parts of this, we still kind of have our shading and highlighting showing up. So like on the braid here, you can totally see the effect of the zenith where it looks like it's highlighted and shaded already, but it's not. It has nothing on it other than zenith and just a thinned layer of heraldic red. So I'm going to do 4 drops of heraldic red, and I'm going to thin it. Probably about 4 to 1. Looks like I'm going to need a pokey tool, though. It's one of those days. Pokey tool day. If you go silent, you've fallen asleep. Yeah, it's rough when you have to stay up with them and really take like close care of them. Gritty go, I get it. Oh, hey, Kuro, while you're still here and more or less lucid, what's your favorite brand of yarn for knitting? Like, do you have a favorite brand, or do you have a couple of favorite brands that you love their stuff? Because I figure you're in Scotland, you probably get really awesome yarn. Because you have a lot of sheep there, right? Of course, that's wool. It's not like you have alpaca farms, but... Yeah, sure. Yes, no, take care of your life before you answer my silly yarn question. All right, 4 drops of, and my heraldic red is getting pretty low. I'm going to have to order another bottle. I do actually go through certain colors, and if there is one color of red that I go through super fast these days, it's Asmodeus from the Pathfinder line, but the second most quickly gone through red in my entire collection is heraldic. All right, I'm going to start it to 4 to 1 and see if I like that consistency. It's going to thin it a bit. It is still a red, even though it's a higher coverage red. All things considered, it is still a red, and it is still not going to be as high coverage as some other colors. This is just the way pigments act. This is why no matter what paint line you go to, reds and yellows and oranges do not have great coverage. And if they do, question whether they've snuck a bit of white into the formulation, because that is common. Asmodeus, Babel. Asmodeus from the Pathfinder line. 89508, I think. I'm going to use kind of my my old ripped up. I started anew. I opened a new Da Vinci Maestro the other day. It's so good to open a fresh brush. So yeah, so I opened a fresh Da Vinci Maestro, and I was super happy about it. There we go. Just kind of sorting through my brushes here. Oh, this is my mixing brush for the other room. I should probably return it to there. Making sure I've got all my brushes kind of organized. When there gets to be a Sable shortage, I'm super happy that I've way bought too many brushes over the last few years. Asmodeus is pretty much a shadow for heraldic, or heraldic is a highlight for Asmodeus. Either way. So yeah, I'm going to do red, do the band in red, and then do gold. And I'll probably just do the whole band in red. And then I'll just paint the gold over the top of it. And if I feel like I need the gold to show up a little brighter, I can do some underpainting before I do that. So you could totally do one color, do a little bit of white underpainting, and then put another color over the top of it if you want that color to show up a little bit better. Like, if you wanted to take advantage of the zenith, but you know you're partially covering it up with the red here, then you can bring your white back in for these areas that you know are lighter and that you've partially covered up with your red, and we'll do that, and to get it to to be brighter. Get the gold to be brighter where you need it. So you can still use your Zenith spray then for the gold. You just need to catch it before it gets totally covered up and reinforce it. Yes. James C. Brett and Cedar. I bet, you know what, with the internets, I bet that a lot of yarns are pretty universal. Somebody will be out there selling it on the interwebs. You like chunky yarn because it takes less time. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I will make a note of those. Thank you. It's hard when you're just trying to pick up a couple of fun things. You know, it's like, you're like, okay, so I want to pick up a couple of fun things, but in that hobby, I have no idea what's fun. But I will write these down and see if I can find them. Do you mostly use wool, Nico? Or do you use blends? I was going to write down yarns, but then I wrote yawns because I couldn't sleep last night. I had a very, very sleepy night. So if I seem a bit erratic and wonky today, it is because I did not. Neither David nor I could get to sleep. Like, it was sitting there. We're staring at the clock and it's 1 a.m. and we could not get to sleep. Oh, okay. Big balls and have some awesome colors. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, awesome colors are a plus for sure. All right. Just going to stick my skinny brush in there and get that little bit of red. And I'm going to use my skinny brush. This is my old beat up Da Vinci that I've kind of retired from precision work, but it's still perfectly good because it's gotten so skinny. It's good for getting these thin, really thin areas. We also need to block in some red on this feather. Yeah, I hate those nights too, Crowley. I don't usually do it. Like, I don't usually run into that at all. Like, usually I'm a very good sleeper. Like, lately I've been getting, like, exemplary sleep. I started sleeping on, actually this is a physical therapy trick I picked up, but I started using a hand towel folded over to kind of support my back while I was sleeping. Just a little tiny bit of extra support, but boy, like the difference it made. I don't know if it's just that, but that was like the change I made, and I've been getting much better sleep since that. Until we hit last night. Last night just, brain would not shut off. Like, brain would not calm down. And usually I can do some meditation and I can manage to get it to, you know, stop being stupid, but last night, squirrel brain hung on with deathly intensity until like 1 a.m. It was not, and I went to bed early, so that was really a lot of lying. Hello, Moon Glooms. I am always providing information, yes. Mostly blends. One of the cat eats real wool. Oh no! Yeah! Put it in off topic. Yeah. Prophecy, you're funny. Yeah, it is though, isn't it? I mean, that's why, I like to watch James Wapple do it because he's using oils and it's like magic. Magical. All right, so I've got one coat and you can see the zenith totally showing through here. I do want to put another coat on, but I think I'm going to focus on the sides that I'm going to keep red since I want that center band to be gold. And yes, we do still have to block in a band of red on these lovely feathers. So for those who are wondering who the hat belongs to, this is the bust that Reaper put out for ReaperCon last year as a ReaperCon special, sculpted by Jean Van Horn. We keep hoping they'd bring it back, but they haven't. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be painting it on stream just for that reason, since it's not available and people get sad. Yeah, it's like when monsters are too close, you can't sleep. Yeah, my local knitting shop recommended the weird round needles also. Circular needles, isn't that what they're called? So, I am I know nothing, so I am kind of like shrug, okay. I know that some people like the round needles and some people don't. So, oh, storms, huh? Fun. Okay, so one more layer gets us a nice strong red on the top there. You can see that. I'll also hit the bottom part where I can see it. Honestly, if you can't really see, if there's any place you can't really see the bottom part, like where it's going into shadow here, and your zenith prime is pretty solid, so it's all just dark red, just leave it. Yeah, maybe there were monsters too close last night, and that's why I couldn't sleep. That would explain everything. Alrighty, so now we got a nice strong red on both sides, and our part that is going to be gold up is lighter. Here I need to go back and catch the bottom edge of this. There. There we go. Now we can go. Go in underpaint. This is big enough that I could just line around it. I'll just grab some liner. Even with the zenith, you still want to line. This model's big enough that maybe you could just shade. You wouldn't need to line. I mean, shading is just like a more intensive version of lining. Lining is the stripped down version of shading. They're both accomplishing the same thing. Just to, you know, show one surface going into another and overlapping it and casting shadows. Lining just creates like that micro shadow unrealistically, but that's because we're painting unrealistically scaled figures. I'm very happy that it's summertime. I think summertime might be my favorite season out here. I was giving it a whole year at least to be here to figure out what my favorite season was. Although fall is pretty nice too. Like fall is nice because it's even nice in like the Bay Area, like San Francisco proper. My favorite time of year in Texas was definitely springtime. I think Texas the South in general has beautiful springs. I'm going to do a little bit of a line between the feather and the red, just to put a nice shadow in there to separate those two things so they don't bleed into each other. And here also where the hat brim comes around, I want to put a little line in there if I can. If I'm going to air to either side, I'm going to try to air onto the feather since the red part is very, very skinny. And the feather is far easier to touch up. And if you're lining after the fact, keep that in mind. It's like if you're going to blorf on one side or the other, try to blorf onto the side where it's easier to touch up, where it's bigger, less micro, much easier. There. Yes, correct, Trasherama. Actually, spring starts in like February in Texas. And it can still like get crazy snowy in February, but you start getting warmer, and I don't know, like March in Texas, March and April, I just love. It's just gorgeous. It's the only state I've ever liked springtime in. Like, hated spring in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, my favorite season is definitely summer. And out on the East Coast, when I lived out there, because I've lived both coasts, but the East Coast, it was definitely fall. Like, the fall just lasted forever in the Baltimore area. Baltimore and Virginia. Like, you got a proper 3 months of it. I was like, oh, this is what seasons are like. Unlike in Wisconsin, where you get like 2 weeks of fall and then everything turns brown and cold. So because the blue hides the liner color so well, I'm just pretty much being messy on the side of the blue. And I'm even taking a little bit of the liner that I blorfed here and just kind of spreading it out like a wash almost, like shading. I'm layering with it. Take a little extra water. So I've essentially used that to create a darker shadow here on the blue, which works great because with this hat brim, you would have shadows for sure. In fact, when you look at it under the camera, you can see that these areas have a lot of shading across them, except for the very top. So we'll keep that in mind. But in general, the blue is so dark already. Really, that just means I won't put highlights there. And if I have a little extra liner, I will use it to do that shadow like I did on this side. You can kind of see it there, that darker brown. Yeah, that's Wisconsin also, Babel. Yeah, the brownouts suck. Yeah, we had those in Texas as well when I lived there. Here we just have random power interruptions because California's power company sucks. So again, I blorfed onto the side of the blue. I'm just going to take a little extra water and create a shadow out of that. And then even more extra water and kind of make sure I blend in the edge. I can also do things like pick up, like I lost some of my shading, my lining here on the inside of the ribbon here. And I've got a little bit of a blurf there as well that I can paint over. Thunder snow, yes, that's fun. I like summer here because then I finally get my Texas weather. Then I get up to 90. And I actually like the 80s and 90s, especially because out here it's dry heat. All right, so we're going to carefully line around the edge of this. We're mostly going to be pressing the brush down onto this band that comes out a little bit. You can see how it comes out. You can see that edge. So that edge is really what you want to line. And then that leaves a nice line there. North Texas is a lot nicer in the springtime, Twisted Oma. Like up where Reaper is, it's very nice. Gonna go around and make sure I've got a proper line and shadow here. line a little bit underneath the band, only where you can see it, really. I'm just going to line underneath it where I can see it clearly here. Otherwise, it's just going to blend into the shadows, so I don't really need to worry about it. And again, I've kind of erred to brushing the liner over the blue there, but that's fine. Again, I can make it into a shadow. Even bring it out here all the way. Brown over blue makes a very nice naturalistic shadow, which is why I say you can always use like walnut or black and brown or brown liner to shade dark blues or medium blues. Like, it tends to look very natural because it'll gray out the color. And the reason for that is that browns are actually more like oranges with just a lot of black in them. And orange is the complementary color to blue. So when you put that orange over the blue, you get more of a natural shadow. Just like if you mix a little bit of blue into orange, you'll get more of a natural shadow for orange. And that's just because shadows, if you look at them, they tend toward gray, right? If you look at the underside of my hand, you can see the gray. And so by adding a complement to gray out and mute the color a little bit, you actually get a very natural effect. Yeah, if you were taking Old Alton Road, yeah, you get to see all the fancy horse farms. Denton itself used to be full of more fancy horse farms. Now there's just a couple of bigger estates, and most of them don't do horses anymore. They do livestock for the tax write-off. Like they do the cattle, like the ranch that was right near Old Reaper, or near the Reaper HQ, Wheeler, the Wheeler Ranch, which is much smaller than it used to be, but they still do longhorns. I think just for the tax write-off on all that land. All right, that's set up. Now I can get out my white to do the underpainting on that band so I can get the center. Yeah, technically ranches. And I'm gonna, I thinned it too much. Oh no, need to add 2 more drops of white. I usually go 2 to 1 with my underpainting with white. There, it's a lot of white now. Okay, I need my mixie brush. Mixie brush. The giant mixing brush that I do not care about. Usually a crappy older red Sable. Because synthetics just crumble too fast when I use them like this. The last thing I want to do is have to buy more synthetics to have more mixing brushes. That would be ridiculous. All right, so now we'll underpaint this hat band a little bit so that we can get a brighter gold effect when we put our base coat down. We can still see the light. I want to unload my brush a little bit more. Whenever your brush is not making a great tip, you kind of know that you need to unload it a little bit more. It means you've got a lot of paint on there. Either your brush is going crappy, which is sad, or you have a lot of paint on there. So I'm going to do, and this is where if I really wanted to, I could underpaint texture, but because I'm going to make this gold, it's really not like, it's probably going to be all covered up. I'll do it anyway just because I like the effect of doing the lines. And I'll make it more solid down the middle where there's light coming down, like so. Like so. All right, and then the back, same thing. Wherever my white primer was more, which is back here, is where I'm gonna be putting in underpainted highlight so I can preserve my zenith a little bit more. So if you want to be underpainting texture, like you want the texture to show, you do want to go about a 2-to-1 with pure white. But if you want it more blended underpainting, you could go down to maybe in one more drop of water. Got a little less paint on my brush here, and that's why I'm getting more subtle effect. So the amount of paint on your brush very much will affect how the paint goes onto the model, obviously, but not just as far as like how much you can actually see the brush strokes, or not so much as like not just in how your control of the paint will vary, but in how much you can see the brush strokes laid down. Once you get a lot of the paint off your brush, you're going to get more of a fuzzy look, less straight and strong like these brush strokes where you can see the lines. So this is a lot less paint in my brush back here, so I'm getting more of a blended look, and this is it's more paint on my brush up here, so I'm getting more lines. There. So now I'm going to put the gold over the top of all that. Oop. Okay, let's actually go back. My camera is very, very, very sad these days. There we go. I must have hit it. Must have nudged it on something. So we were working with these colors. I'm just going to put one drop because I know that rich leather is pretty translucent once you add water to it. So I'm keeping it at a base coat. And even with that, the zenith will likely still show through. Get my mixing brush. Ooh, I'll have to take a nap this afternoon. It's a problem with crappy sleep. So my brain is going to feel fried in no time. I don't know what the homestead exemption thing is, or if it would apply to a giant X horse farm. Seems like it's gone a bit beyond a homestead at this point. It used to be much larger, that farm right near Reaper HQ, the Wheeler property. They sold it off for to all those housing developments that you see on both sides now, and to the school. I think the school is built on Geyer High School is built on old Wheeler land. I'm not sure about that, but everywhere around there, I think, used to be part of that property. It's just been chunked off and sold off down through the years. So now there's just the big house and like enough farmland and forest land to make it a nice, still very big parcel. That's why that housing development that Ron lives in is called Wheeler Ridge, by the way. It's because the Wheeler family used to own all that. The house has a different name now. I think it's Ravencrest is the name on the front of the gate, but it used to be part of the old Wheeler family holdings. All right, so painting the gold over the top, we still get a little bit of that texture. See it? You can see it there underneath. But it's toned down a fair bit. And back here, it just looks like zenith. Like, you can see the going into the shadows there. So underpainting to keep your zenith is one thing you can do. Not so much when they're putting in the subdivisions, but when because the subdivisions have been in for a while, but it was when they were widening the road to Sonoma. If you're thinking in the last few years, like the last 5 years or so, because I moved in, like I used to live in one of those subdivisions, and we moved in way back in like 2007 or 8. So it was a long time ago when those were actually built. But the more recent, like in the last 5 years, where it was just like a pain and there was all that construction, that was actually them widening Swisher Road, like widening that road. Because there were so many houses. So I guess you could count that. You're right. You would count that as part of the housing development. Because it's because of the houses that it needed to be widened. But that was a pain in the butt. Yeah. Especially for living there. Yeah, it just was a pain in the butt whenever there was traffic. And to get to the stores, too. To get to my Sprouts. I went to a new Sprouts yesterday, and I was disappointed in it. It's not as good as my old Sprouts. They closed my old Sprouts. So now I need to find a new Sprouts or give in and go to Whole Paycheck. Though the frugal part of Anne just does not want to give in and go to Whole Paycheck. Though the part of me that I actually do love our local Whole Foods. It is a super fancy store, and it is just, like, stepping in there just makes you want to buy stuff and cook. Like, seriously. There we go. Got a little bit more gold on there. But it is not cheap, and so I avoid going usually, unless I'm treating myself to go to the pricey store. Let's see here. Just touching up some rub off here with the gold. There's a little bit, just because I've been holding the hat. I haven't put it, I haven't attached it yet, because there's still enough that I need to do on this that I like to hold the model. David makes fun of me for that. I should be using my bubble wrap over here, but Noli was sitting on it and keeping me from grabbing it. That is now no longer a problem. Noli, sit on the other bubble wrap. There. Using bubble wrap properly will keep me from rubbing that off again. You don't want to hear about work? It was that construction curse. Alrighty. Now I do still need more highlights on these feathers too, but at this point I am going to start blocking in the red. And to do that, I actually want to put it on the model because I want to look at my color composition, because you wouldn't just put red on without checking how it looked. So putting the hat on, I'm going to zoom out so we can talk about this. So color composition is not color theory. Color composition is just making sure that you're spreading out like your accent colors around the model. So when we look at her right now, we've got that red accent up here. It's on the hat band. It's a nice, like, spread out nicely over the model. So we don't really need a lot of red on the front, but we'll probably just get a little bit. We'll probably put a little bit here, and most of that won't be really visible. Like, we might see a little tiny bit of the red striping back here, but we don't really need more red on the front of the model. We've got these areas that are all leading very nicely to the face. And the problem with this feather, if it had been turned more toward the front, is that it would be distracting. We'd have this spot of red, like, way out here, when really we want the attention to be focused in this area. So where we are now on the front is good. So I would not want to paint this area up here where I've still got a lot of feather facing the front. I would not want to paint that red. I want to keep that neutral. And instead, what this tells me is I should paint the red further down the feather, more toward where it's pointed to the side or toward the back. This model really only has 2 viewing angles. The viewing angle here, and technically you could call all of this one viewing angle here because you want to look at her face on and you want to look at her slightly oblique. And then the backside, which is its own thing, and we've got our own red here, but notice we are missing some red, right? So we've got red down here at the bottom, And we've got now a tiny bit of red up at the top. Though you're not going to be able to see the band, you're going to be able to see the back of the ribbons. So we are lacking some red here. We've got all this middle space. So again, that points toward putting the red toward the bottom of the feathers. On the back, we don't care so much about pulling the eye out here because the feathers are part of the cool motion. Like back here, I would say this is part of the more interesting part with the hair and the scarf and the feathers. And so putting red up on the feathers and then having the eye kind of go like this, not a bad thing at all. So... oh, whole paycheck. So yeah, so that's my thought process, and it's why I'll be doing just a little bit of a red band toward the bottom of these feathers and where they won't show up very much on the front. So just going to check that one more time, and actually what I'll do is I'll grab a tiny bit of my red and I'll look and I'll be like, okay, so I want to go here. That's not going to be visible. So there, I've marked it. So you always want to do that if you're using bright color accents. You want to kind of put the pieces together long enough so that you can make a good call on where you want to put those accents. So that you don't accidentally make something really distracting. I'm going to mix up a little bit more red because I actually used a lot of it. I did not mix up that much in the beginning. Oh no, cursed. But now you're on vacation, so it doesn't matter. You've escaped. You've escaped. Temporarily. Alrighty. So I'm going to grab this nice bright jaunty red color, which is, again, Heraldic Red 9402. It's Bones Red. I talked about it at the start of the stream, but if you were not here, it is my favorite medium range red. It has really good coverage for a red. So I likes it. And it's got a good strong color. It's slightly muted, but it's not, it doesn't have black in it, so it's not ashy. All right, so now I'm going to start putting these little red splooches, red bands, red bars, making them more or less line up. Usually colors like this were dyed into the feather, of course, so one thing you can also do is to kind of, if you're doing it really realistically, you can make it almost bleed out a little bit into the surrounding feathers, although that's hard to do to make it look right. And I'm not like, I'm a fan of the look on historical models, but not so much on fantasy, so I'll make it pretty crisp on her. Okay, and then the part of the feather underneath is going to be pretty much hidden. I'll do a little bit over here, though. Just because this feather overlaps that feather at the correct point. And then here I can put it anywhere. I'm going to look at the back of the model again. Sit, stay. So I would want to put it... probably it's going to be around that same kind of spot here. And that means it'll come down and be on this side, which will show. There. Scrunch up my bubble wrap so that I can hold it nicely. There. But yeah, I have a lot more kind of highlighting. I could do it over here. But this is why busts take a long time. There's just a lot of details. There's a lot of sections that you have to paint like decently. Like it's just like painting a really big model, like a giant, where you've got a lot of details and a lot of areas. Except because it's not a monster, you're painting it to usually a much higher standard. So busts take time to do well. Because you're not just kind of, half-assing it because it's like a monster. Yeah. For a bust, if you're painting a bust, you're painting for display. So a little more time intensive. So we'll do these, and I'm not going to necessarily make them exactly the same, but that's close enough. Yeah. Now, I will not make this red color go up with orange. It's much more likely to be a little faded on these feathers. So I'm probably going to mix up a pink. So I'll throw a little white into my heraldic red to create kind of a salmony color. I could add a tiny bit of orange and get more of an actual salmon color, but in reality, if this is fading out, it's probably going to be a little more pinky. However, I am using, a tanned ivory kind of color on the underneath, so I could add a little bit of gnawed bone to it. That would take it slightly orangey because there's yellow in gnawed bone. So if I add a little bit of that, which I just threw half of a drop. By people, Pendrake, it's dyed. That's why I was talking a little earlier, actually, about this exact thing. And often you'll see like historical models painted when there's a feather crest or a hair crest that's striped like Roman. You'll see that they've faded the color into the surrounding strands to make it look like the dye has bled a little bit. We have a bust by Kirill that does exactly that. He's faded it in. Maybe I'll go grab it to show you guys what I mean. But yeah, so I'm definitely going to wash out this color with highlights rather than going for like an orange highlight. So give me a second. Let me show you. Because Kirill did it really well. Yeah, Kiriniko is like actually still awake. Wow, Kuro. All right, so this model is in David's collection. He purchased it from Kirill. Kirill is one of the best miniature painters in the world. So just be ready, just to let you guys know how good this is. Kirill is one of the best miniature painters in the world. But what I wanted to illustrate is look up here. See how he's brought the dye over into the cream color so that you get that effect that it's bled. It's bled into the surrounding territory. Same over here. It's really convincing on a historical mini. So that is what. But yeah, Kirill is a really, 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 really good painter. Just in case you ever wondered. He actually has this book this model featured in his book. So his NMM is amazing. So, yep. It's a great model. His fabric is really nice too. So, yep. Yes, that's why I say he's my favorite painter, and he's one of the best in the world for sure. Top 3 in my opinion. But then when you start talking best in the world, it gets very subjective very fast because some people really love Kirill's style and others don't. So his style, Kirill's style, is about as far from the, say, Spanish style as possible, I would say. Yes, but Kariniko had a hard time taking care of a sick kitty, Pendrake. So she is tired. She warned us that if she disappears, it would be because she is tired. All right, but yeah, so that's the kind of effect you can do, and that doing that sort of effect on a 28 would be kind of wasted. It probably would just look messy. But when you are working on something that's that big, then you can do it. You can do that fade effect, and it works. I'm gonna thin down this pinkish color that I created. I also think I want a slightly darker red to really add in. So of course I reach for Asmodeus. I'm like, well, I'll reach for Urgathoa. And no, the color in my hand is actually Asmodeus. But it's my new bottle of Asmodeus, as opposed to my almost empty bottle of Asmodeus. Well, we'll use it anyway. May as well use both of my favorite reds, right? So this is the other favorite red. Oh, it's 8507. Yeah, 89507, not 89508. Maybe 89508 is Urgathoa. Yes. So these two reds. Best Pathfinder reds. If you're looking for a good dark red, which can be hard to find in some lines, Asmodeus and Urgathoa are great dark reds. Oh, well, that's a lot. My paint bottles are really attacking today. Like, they're just like, blurb. You try to get 2 drops and you get 8. It's that kind of day. So let's get some water in that. I'm going to darken it down just a tad. Remember that as you thin your paint, it will dry a little lighter. So if you are using Asmodeus as a shadow, but it's not that much darker than the color you started with, you may want to add a little bit of dark brown. It just happened with your green liner. Blorf! Yeah. So I just threw some brown liner into this Asmodeus because I wanted it to go a little darker. It actually makes a very pretty color. It's that dark red right there. I regularly throw dark browns into other colors to build shadows. So I'm going to shade near the middle here. Near the quill. The quill wouldn't be dyed along with the feathers. It would probably stay, since it's cartilage, isn't it? It's keratin? I don't know. Don't remember what the structure is, but it probably would not be dyeable. So I'm going to make the call not to do that. So a tiny bit of shadow right up next to the quill to give it less of a flat look. Would subcutaneous fluids help, Kariniko? Did they give him that too? I know with my cat, he also had trouble like with anything like that at the vet, but the one time he had kind of got sick and needed fluids, they did a big shot of subcutaneous to help. It was like he had a big bubble under his skin and then it just absorbed. All right, so again, putting a little bit of shadow right at the in. And if I have to come back and pick up the quill a little bit lighter, I can do that anytime. That's easy. So right now, just working with the feathers, getting a nice dark red line, shadow right down the middle. And then I'll bring up the feathers a little bit more toward the outside. Ah, okay. Well, I hope Loki gets recovered. Is he the scarf kitty? Is Loki the scarf kitty? Or is that a different kitty? Oh, that's his brother. Okay. His brother is Scarf Kitty. Got it. Well, Loki, get better soon. I want you to be able to dash around with everybody else when I sing the happy sub-anniversary song. Alrighty. So just brightening up my reds a little bit before I bring them back. Want to make sure I have a nice deep color so that when I do highlight, I can really see it. So we're just layering in more heraldic red to just deepen our color here. There. All right. So fading it out there on the edge of the feathers. So it's very likely that the edges will be more faded. I'll mix up a second highlight as well to do that, but I'm going to start with this kind of... Oh, he's the wool devourer. Got it. Wool eating kitty. Do you knit them toys, Kerniko? Do you make kitty toys? Or is it, like, impossible because one of them likes to eat the wool? I suppose you could use a blend. Yes. Aw. Is there a good book or resource for making toys online? Like for kitty toys and puppy toys? Or did you just figure out how to do it yourself? I might have to beg for a puppy toy. But maybe I should get brave and try to make my own. Like I need another hobby. I think it would be cool to be able to make your own animals' toys. That'd be super fantastic. I bet you can make some pretty decent puppy tugs that way. As long as you didn't have too destructive of a dog. But yeah, is there a place that you would look for patterns for that thing? That sort of thing? Like, is there a cat lovers, knit lovers, or, you know, dog lovers, knit lovers, like, Discord where you share patterns? All right, so just fading them out just a little bit. You can see just a little bit of the lightning. Search for Erin gum patterns. Cute little Japanese toy patterns. Oh, of course the Japanese people would have cute little patterns. Duh. They have cute little everythings. Maybe that's like, you know, totally overstating it. But let's just face it. The Japanese, and the Koreans for that matter, understand the cute of tiny things. So let me write that down. Japanese toy patterns. I bet I can figure out the word. Erangumi. For little toys. Little knitted toys, one assumes. Amigurumi. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Quindy. Quindy, you really are a hero. Also, you must love Google searching. Like, I would totally be there. I also love Google searching, but amigurumi. Awesome. Neat. I have to go look. That's going to be a Google search right after I finish the stream. I'll Google search it while I walk. I kind of hope that I have a puppy that isn't terribly destructive. Like, you really don't know. Like, some puppies, when they hit that teething phase, everything is, like, gone. Like, it is shark mode. But I kind of hope I have a puppy that's a little less chewy. Or at least one that won't absolutely destroy, like, you know, soft toys in 2 seconds. Leo and Kiri were both very good. Kiri actually just ran around the house with a ball in her mouth and when she was a puppy and, like, didn't destroy soft toys. And Leo loved his soft toys. Like, they're his favorite thing. He would actually surreptitiously chew a limb off if we didn't watch him. Oh, cool, Quindy. A Dracula one. That's super cool. A deep, deep hole to fall into, huh? Uh-oh. Well, it's a good thing that I'm not really thinking about getting into knitting and just thinking of looking for patterns to beg my knitting friends to make. Although they'll probably say, oh, but they're easy. You should do it. You should just make your own dog toys. Yeah, that would be the thing that got me into knitting. Like, I never, ever, ever was ever interested in any sewing ever because my mother is a sewing genius and she knits and she does needlepoint and she does cross stitch. Like, seriously. But she grew up in a country family, so they actually knitted their clothes when she was a kid. Like, they did not have a lot of money, and so grandma was very frugal, and mom knew how to knit. You better betcha. But because my mom was such a pro in knitting, I just had this big resistance as a kid to learning sewing or knitting or anything. Which is funny because, like, she also was really good at art, but she wasn't doing that all the time. So I don't know why I felt like art was my thing and not sewing. But anyway. But this is the thing that could get me to take the step. Is if I can knit my own dog toys. Really easy crochet. Okay. And crochet is easier than knitting, isn't it? At least I think I've heard that. I'll look at them and maybe, because it would be super cool to make my own puppy toys. Like, that would be so cool. I could make a dragon. I could make a little sheep because herding dogs, you know? It would be cute. It'd be too cute. Might finally get me to think about it. All right, so Ajin just working in these, like, fainter pinks. And you don't want to go whole hog pink into this, or you will totally wash out your red and it won't look red anymore, right? This is the big thing. So instead, we got to practice surface control. We want to make sure that it's toward the edges that we're keeping our pink. We're not going to creep our pink in too much because then we're going to lose our red. Nice, Carrie Michael. Yeah, my mom tried to teach me, like, some sewing, but I just did not, like, I don't know, whether it was because she was all into it, and so as a contrary kid, I was not all into it, or what, but it was just not, I just wasn't interested in it. Like, I wanted to paint a lot more than I wanted to sew. Like, so I gravitated in that direction instead. as far as creativity. It did take me a long time to get like to the point where I realized that an organized area is the best area. So good for your mom, Carrie Michael, because keeping organized is so important. Craftsmanship and tidiness. One-handed, so easier to get used to. Loads of dragon patterns. Oh, Tyrannid. Oh my god. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, I'm totally gonna go and look. This sounds really fun. This sounds really fun. Maybe I'll get crochet hooks. Does crochet use like bulky yarn or little yarn, or does it use whatever you want and it's just like the pattern? I don't know anything about this. I'm such a noob. Oh my god, you are my sensei now, Kurnika. Look out. You and Quindy. Oh, you had your mom do it, so your mom is the sensei actually, Quindy. I see. All kinds of yarn? Because you know that's where it would get me, right? It's because there's so many beautiful yarns out there. Oh, hey, speaking of that, wait. I wanted to show you guys something. So Rhonda, Bird with a Brush, who does their show on Mondays after me, y'all know that she just put out a thing about how to steal color combos, right? Like if you see it, if you're not on her blog, you should be, and she has a Patreon too, and you can also Ko-fi tip her. But David bought me flowers. And one of them just had the greatest color pattern for like fire elementals. So I saved a picture of it. So they're kind of like flame roses. Like they have these really dark red edges. And then this one is also, you can kind of see it. This is a little unfocused, but they're really like I'm like going to steal this color pattern so much for my next fire elemental. And the key is that, like, it's all yellow, right? There's this pale, pale yellow, almost a creamy yellow. And then it only goes to the orange, like, right at the edge. And it goes right to, like, magma red. And then right to almost a dark brown red. But it's those dark, the way that it goes very quickly. Like, it's mostly light, but it goes very quickly. Like, they look like smoky edges, right? You could totally do fire this way. Yeah, they're really, really cool. I wonder if I have a picture from yesterday. Yeah, there we go. This is more crisp. Now you can really see them. So, like, totally looks like fire, right? So I totally would paint a fire elemental with this. And it's just like they just get to that dark, just dark at the, like, edges and tips. So for fire, this is kind of a key for you, is, like, don't make it too orange. Like, start yellow and get orange, and definitely reddish, and the dark smokiness should only be toward the very tips of things. So this is an example of how you can just grab colors from anywhere and just say, oh my god, that orange, that rose is totally a fire elemental. So yes, my guy has really good, he actually bought it for the roses. He really loved the roses. So that's why I got the pretty bouquet. I don't know if I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture of the whole thing. We have a lily and it's got roses and stuff like that. But yes, one of my favorite things about my guy is that he buys me flowers. Oh, you bought the pattern and paid for the yarn and told her to give you a price after she was done. Oh, that's nice, Quindy. Awesome. I'll have to go look. Maybe it'll be something I could do. Because sometimes, if it's easy, sometimes I get to, like, later in the evening and I'm just, like, my brain is done for the day. And I wish I had something I could do that didn't take brain power and oomph. Because, like, painting usually for me does take oomph because I'm doing something that's inevitably doing something that's higher level. I guess I could maybe just start painting some of our Bard Sung figures when I had no brain. Some of the monsters would probably be easy. But I'm kind of looking for something I can do when I'm, like, totally brain fried. So now we're just, you can see I'm bringing up the edges, and sometimes I'm bringing streaks in, but I still need to watch it. I still need to make sure that a lot of my surface is red. Now, one thing we can do also is we could bring in, if you want to highlight your red, but you don't want to risk going pink. One of the tricks, oh, so many patterns on Etsy, huh? Oh, Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you would get with fire, right? That's why they're fire elemental roses. I'm just going to call them fire elemental roses. So one of the things you can do is just what we did with our hat band is you can take your white. I need to thin this white a little bit more. Hold on. My white is persnickety. You can take your white into underpainting and then put red over the top. And this is how I did Soldier 76's jacket, because I needed to highlight it, but I didn't want it to go pink because, you know, I mean, I'm sure he's secure in his masculinity and everything, but I didn't want it to go pink. So, although actually that's funny because he's actually gay, which doesn't, there you go. Either way, I wanted it to be red. So you can do a little bit of this. You do that, then take your red, thin it just a little bit, and paint it over the top. And this is how you can get like a highlight on red, but still reinforce the depths of your red. Because as you glaze that over, you're making everything else really red. And your white underpainting is going to show up. And it's not going to be as washed out looking. See how that's a stronger red and that's more pink. So doing the white underpaint can give you the results you want as far as highlighting your red a little bit without going like pink. It can keep it stronger red. So you can see that as opposed to that. Raverly website. I don't even know these things. Yeah, that makes sense, like buying patterns from Etsy. I mean, I like supporting creators too. Although Etsy has been less than awesome to its creators lately, but I don't want to penalize the people who are still trying to make money on Etsy by like boycotting Etsy. Like I sometimes think that just backfires. I'm sure you guys all know all the cool places to go for dog toy patterns. Oh, Revelry? Revel. Awesome. I have made a note. I have made a note. Thank you, everybody. Yes, making my own dog toys would be super exciting. Assuming I have a puppy that will not just totally destroy them. But yeah, thanks guys. Like I need to go down more bunny holes in my life, but I just want to make I want to make cool things for my puppy. Like it's so exciting to have a new puppy, and I don't have a lot of dog stuff anymore because I couldn't afford to move it. So I gave away a lot of, and a lot of Kiri's old stuff if it was like still in good condition. Like I just gifted to shelters and stuff if they would, whatever they would take. So I'm kind of starting a bit fresh. I just have, I have Kiri's balls or squeaky balls. Like any of the squeaky balls that were still good, I kept. Because, you know, squeaky balls. So we've got that. Yeah, I would underpaint with white and then bring it up with red. And then then you can also just do pink highlights and then do a glaze of red over the top. If you want to bring it down. I'm trying to make this look more faded, so I'm not really doing that at this point. But you can just highlight it and put, if you go too pink, you can do a glaze. I would do it less strong than what I was doing over the white. But you can do a glaze over your pink too to darken it down. But before you do that, I might bring up your pink to white. So if we were doing that here, and I may as well just show you guys. We'll just turn this into a painting red tutorial at this point. We're highlighting red without pinking it out. So, okay, so I've got all this pink over here. So before I did a red glaze, I would probably actually bring in some actual white. And I might even do a little bit of a mix of the white with my previous highlight to get a little blend going on here. If I knew that I was going to be doing this. And if I wanted to highlight here and where the feathers are kind of poofing out, so I would do all that. And get my highlights all kind of underpainted in. And then I would do a red glaze. So let's make a red glaze. That's really washed out now. We've covered over a lot of our red, although it's still not bad. It looks shiny because we've done all these spot white highlights. That's what you, that helps to make something look shiny. That's why you do that with NMM. So then bring a drop of your red over into a thing. Throw a bit of water in it. You can throw a little bit of sealer in it if you want, or glazing medium if you really want. Yeah, that makes sense, Kerniko. All right, so you want a glaze to be really colored water. So I'm going to try this. I can kind of see. I want it to be a little strong. Like, I don't want it to be totally not there. But I'm going to glaze over the top of this. And you can see that made it deeper red again. And it toned down all those pinks. Make sure you do pull off any excess again. So I rinsed out my brush and I'm pulling off any puddles that I see. And remember that your glaze is going to, just like a wash, is going to dry a little lighter. So, but in general, that has brought back the richness while keeping the highlights. And then you can always come up and just do a little touch up if you want. Yeah, earlier in the evening, I'm still pretty productive, but when it hits like 8:30, 9, then I'm like starting to, I lack brain power for painting at that point. And I've got, right now, I used to just play computer games when that hit, but I've got a little bit of inflammation in my shoulder. So I have to watch the positioning of it, and for some reason, computer games just aggravate that. Like, I can sit and paint, but maybe it's because I'm used to keeping my shoulders back when I do that, but computer game's not an option for me right now, not for any length of time. So I have to figure out something else to do in the evening. Lately, I've just been reading, which is certainly not a waste of my time. Because it's nice to have extra time to read. There we go. So yeah, so then I brought my highlights back in just a little bit. And there we are. So you can see that it still reads as red. It's not pink. You can still see all your highlights. That's the way, really, if you want to highlight your reds with white, but you don't want them to go too pink, the glaze is your friend. Just really just pop it in there and you'll still get some of your layering and it'll look good. So. And it's good glazing practice. I mean, reds are very forgiving for glazing, as are oranges and yellows, because they are so naturally translucent on their own. So it's a good tactic. So again, on the other side here, just going to bring in a little bit of highlight here on the part of the feathers kind of bulging out. Yellow confetti, rose, yellow petals with red edges. Yeah, that's nice. But yeah, rose colors, like flower colors, often when I take my walk, there are so many roses here in our neighborhood, and there's so many amazing irises and just funky plants. We've got hibiscus plants. There's so many awesome, like, just color combos on the plants in our neighborhoods. So I take a lot of pictures out on my walks, and it gives me ideas for color schemes. Gonna do that red glaze over there. So again, kind of rinse off your brush, squeeze the water out or tap it off, and then pull off any excess fluid. If you want it to dry in a nice even layer, you don't want coffee stains. So I figured out, I think, what our neighbor's tree that wants to drop a ton of fruit onto my head is. Like, it's stretching its branches, like, seriously over our yard. And I think it's a Japanese plum. Like, it looks like one. Like, I did some tree ID last night. It's either crabapple or Japanese plum, and I need to get a closer look at the bark. But if it's Japanese plum, I'm kind of excited. Like, because technically, it wants to give me fruit. Who am I to say no? Which would add to our fruit. It would add to our fruit yard. Yeah, right, Kerniko? Like, we have our free lemons and our free limes. And then we're going to have free avocados, free oranges. We have free figs. And then we'll have plums. So that sounds like a pretty good combo. Like, our yard is, like, seriously... I save so much money on lemons and limes. Because we go through a lot. All right. So that feather, you can see, you know, I've got some nice fade toward the outer edges. I need to maybe get this middle section here. But yeah, plums would just add to our overall fruitliness in this yard. Botanists and florists. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Florists are just trying to make something, name something that looks good. And botanists are trying to have a functional term. Probably also florists will just name something to see if they can promote it and sell it more. And botanists will again go for like consistent taxonomy. So not surprised we have disagreements there. Science doesn't always agree with, ooh, pretty. Oh, yes. They require care, but they're pretty, like, our lime tree is old and getting feeble, so, like, we've had to trim it. But otherwise, I mean, you've got, you know, the sprinkler system and everything. And the lemon tree is pretty, other than, like, pruning and stuff, the lemon tree is pretty, low work. And the figs, I just have to trim back to keep them from taking over. Like, the figs will grow everywhere. They are prolific. I'm trying to keep them contained in a small section because I do not want, like, to have to worry about tons of fruits that I have to keep from falling and smooshing places. Plus, the squirrels tend to only partially murder the figs. Like, it's like having a cat that just wants to eat the head off the rabbit and leave you the corpse. Like... That's a horrible analogy, but it happened in our old house, so it comes to mind. But the squirrels will come, and they will murder a fig, and they will take 4 bites, and then they will strew the rest of the fig all over the driveway. So, like, I feel like I don't want the corpses of dismembered figs having to clean up after that all the time, so keeping the fig tree a bit smaller would be nice. I do not want a giant fig tree in our front yard. I would like the orange tree to get bigger. So again, coming in a little bit toward the center. And then I just want to pick up this area a little bit because the feather does tend to curve out a little bit at that point. Squirrels are chaotic neutral. They're planting more trees. Well, if they weren't strewing it on like paving stones, they would be Grey Wolf. But yes, sadly they strew them along our walkway, and maybe they're protesting. Maybe they want it to be dirt. But sorry, we have a very nice paving stone driveway, so we're not going to change that up for you, squirrels. Yeah, I feel like the orange tree needs a little more water. I may need to start adding a gallon or 2 a week to the orange tree. The avocado tree is super happy, though. I got our new fountain set up, but probably it's scaring away all the animals because they're not used to having a fountain there. Although bees came to drink. We had honeybees drinking right after I set the fountain up yesterday. Honeybees came and drank at it, which was really cool. They like that area because we've got the lime and lemon flowers right now. So they've been pollinating up a little storm with their bee selves. There we go. So those feathers look good. In fact, they look better than the beige ones around them. So now I need to work harder on these other feathers. Oh yeah, our hummingbirds tend to be over on the other side of the house, Grey Wolf, because our jasmine is in bloom right now, and they're going nuts. So there was a little guy out there actually last night when I walked by. Little guy or gal. Yeah, yay for bees. I don't need it to be symmetrical. It's okay. Like, I could do one more spine. But it does not need to be symmetrical in my opinion. Humans do not always. The problem is, Pendrake, I don't want this this part of this red visible toward the front. So I'll do just a little bit more red to satisfy your need for symmetry. But I will not go all the way. The more I curve it around, the more this red is going to be visible from the front of the model, and I don't want it distracting the eyes, so that's why I'm going a little bit less there. Plus, you know, a little bit of irregularity is more probably historically accurate. It's not like pirates were sitting there meticulously dyeing their feathers to be symmetrical. So that's pretty much good. So yeah, so I should work on feathers and lace maybe, and the gold. I could do just a really quick little bit of highlighting on the red since I have this pink mixed up. Yes, I'm sure there were gentlemen pirates, but I'm sure there were also a lot of half-assed pirates who really didn't care if their hat was even. Just knowing humans, right? For every meticulous human, there are a bunch more half-assed humans. And some of us are meticulous in some things and completely off our rockers on others. Crazy disorganized. There are definitely things I am far more meticulous about and things I'm just like, eh. Yeah, I'm so happy, Kariniko, that we have hummingbirds out here. It was one of my favorite things because we had one that was that would come right up to the tree right next to our window in the old apartment when I first moved here. Like, I was just like, California is awesome. There are hummingbirds. My mom has them in Arizona. But I've never lived in a place where I had hummingbirds right near. So I'm just going to take some of this highlight and just get this red band a little bit. Just a little spot highlight. This is like an interior area. Not a lot of people are going to see it. But you want to put a little bit of work there. Just because you don't want to have it be totally kind of base coated. You want to put a little work. You don't need a lot of work in these interior areas. You just need enough to show that you actually paid some attention. Our flag means death. Yeah, the blue's going to need a couple of touch-ups. I mean, I only just started using the bubble wrap, so that was my own fault for not bubble wrapping previously. Plus, I'm still, like, getting a little bits of, like, I just got a little bit of red on that. But that's it. The hat has totally, Nope, this is, all of this is from Reaper's bust that they put out for ReaperCon exclusive, Imagine. So this is a ReaperCon exclusive from last year. She's a pirate bust, obviously, Angelica Fairweather. They haven't put it out as a regular release yet. I'm kind of hoping they are. It's kind of me painting this, hoping they will. But meanwhile, we've just been working on painting a cool hat. Yeah, it's super fun. Like, she's not chibi, but she's just cartoony enough that yeah, she's got a really unique look. I keep saying that she looks like a Pixar character. Like, her face totally looks like a Pixar character. Like, she's computer rendered. It's pretty cool. It's a cool look. It's not the super realistic bust that we see a lot, which makes it interesting to paint it a slightly different way. But I've just been putting some highlights, and we've covered painting red on today's stream. And how to highlight it without going too pink. Essentially using some glazing to bring your red tones back in if you go too pink with your highlights. But yeah. Whimsical stitches. All right. Thanks. Kuroniko to the rescue. Alrighty, so that's what we did today, guys. We got, let me write down that title from, yeah, for Kuroniko. Oh, and I did give a puppy update at the beginning of the stream, so I'll show you all just my puppy mom, my new puppy's mommy, although my new puppy doesn't exist yet, or it does, but it's still in gestation. So for those who missed the beginning of the stream, Zammy is 5.5 weeks pregnant, and this is my puppy's mommy. So say hello to Zammy. So we shall have puppies, puppy confirmation in like 2 weeks. You're spreading the yarn madness. And then we'll have puppies on the ground around June 28th. So a week after my birthday. I get a puppy for my birthday. Yeah, so this is Zam. She's a really pretty girl. So we call this color, in Shiloh's, this color is called Golden Sable. Even though she's got the saddle marking, it's actually genetically different from the saddle marking in the GSD. A lot of our dogs have that, though, if they have the saddle, we call it dual. If they've got that color gene, but it's recessive, a lot of the Sables will have the saddle, the dark on the back anyway. But the Sables will have this lightning and all this kind of like ticked hair in through here. So yeah. So the puppy could look like that, or could be that color, or a browner version of that color, or black. Those are all color options for this litter. So we don't know yet. And we'll find out how many of each color, in addition to how many girls and boys, at the end of this month. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Yes, I figured those of you who missed the pup date in the front would appreciate the pup date at the rear of the stream. You think Crow's Nest is on? Actually, Crow's Nest is on at 5 p.m. Central. You think, maybe. Alrighty. Well then, thanks everybody for showing up. And you might get Michael later, or you might not. It's a mystery. He's trying to keep you in suspense. So tomorrow, guys, we are back to everybody's favorite Pink Celestial Mage. We are working on the NMMs. And things like that. And we were also talking a lot of color composition last time. So we are going to be starting on the NMM, the gold NMM in earnest tomorrow. That is where we're going. So yeah, love this model. Really love how she's turning out. Love the color scheme. Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. Yep, M&Ms. That's what we're working on. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Kuroniko, I hope your kitty feels better by tomorrow so you can actually sleep. All right? Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.